Talkin Money. Talkin Money.
Let's rejoin your host, Jeff Tarbell, and Talkin Money.
All right, how you doing? Jeff Tarbell, Nick Perjanik in studio. We did get a winner for the Dial M for tickets. That's Frank. But, Frank, we didn't get your address to mail you the tickets, so you better give us a call back at 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. So, Frank, if you got those, we need your address. Otherwise, you'll be sitting outside the door. Open. And we got a pair of passes, ski passes here at Tahoe sitting here. Who's going to come get?
For Darren?
Oh, Darren. Okay, so Darren, you got
for Darren.
Darren, paging Darren.
Bueller.
You got a half an hour, Darren, to get down to the studio, 5244 Madison Avenue, to pick up your tickets today if you want to get some skiing in. If not, we'll mail them out to you. Got a couple people on the text and a couple people on hold want to talk about the bullet train, either here or in Hawaii. Let's go to Steve, who's been patiently holding. Hey, Steve, welcome to Talkin Money. How you doing?
Yeah, hey, Jeff. First off, I want to say that when Don Geronimo first got here, I called him up and I wanted to let him know what a heartfelt condolence that you gave for his wife, Frida. So
okay, thank you.
I didn't figure that was something that, you might bring up yourself. But on the bullet train, most of us that are non-business travelers, we have all the expenses of, like, once you get there, you have to travel from the center point that you arrive.
Right.
So how cheap is travel going to be by the time the bullet train is developed to drive to L.A., and wouldn't we be better off to invest in a smart freeway?
Yeah, that's during the break I was reading through this article because people were texting in different questions about the Hawaii system, and they're asking, what is this thing really going to do? And the gentleman who is against this, the former ex-governor who's against this in Hawaii, is asking the exact same questions. This is a $5 billion project, of which the federal government has said they'll put up about $1.5 billion of it. So he's saying the same thing. We have sewer problems. We got water problems. We could do some better busing. We could do a lot of things for a lot less money for a 20-mile loop than spend $5 billion on it. So I think that's part of the question. And a lot of this goes to the kind of the green movement, right? If we put a high-speed train up, we don't have to have any gas being, so there's a lot of other things going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, but by that time, if we have electric cars and we had a smart freeway lane, down I-5, we already have I-5 infrastructure there.
I don't disagree with you, Steve. I appreciate your call very much. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you. And that's the question. In fact, part of what's derailing a little bit the movement in Hawaii is that there are other systems, such as the one in Florida and such as the one in California, that are both now running into problems with getting their money. And so the big states aren't able to pull this off. So, I don't know. We'll see how it works out.
You're saying they're having trouble getting the money from their citizens or from the federal government?
The federal government. The federal government is a matching, I believe. So they'll put up some starter money, but you have to be able to show you can get your money before you get the rest of it.
Got it.
And that's been the problem. I think what the governor or ex-governor here is on to in Hawaii is that people are saying this is the biggest stimulus project ever in the state of Hawaii, and he's saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't about a stimulus project. This is about, do we want to spend $4 billion of our own money for 20 miles, or can we use that for something else that would be a whole lot more effective? And they do have some other issues, and the traffic is horrible through that section. If you've ever been there, the traffic time is ridiculous. There's just no room. So I get the need for it, but we'll see if it actually comes together or not. Off the text line and off, you can email me if you'd like, jeff@jefftarbell.com. Off the text line, how much of the $5 billion is just getting the parts to Hawaii? Good question. I don't know. I'm sure there's a big chunk of that is getting raw materials over there. Off from the 209, the train is a waste of money. Off the 916, I've never been through a metal detector before getting on a train. Okay.
True.
So I've only been. Is there any kind of security like BART? If you get on BART, is there anything you have to do? No. So that surprises me a little bit because it goes underground, under the ocean. It goes into the Oakland, into San Francisco. It goes into some big cities, and I don't. Someone had emailed me. Well, they can shut down a train, which is probably true. So how do you hijack it? I'm not sure. I don't think you're going to take the train and go to New Mexico, but you could certainly cause a lot of damage with it. And so it kind of surprises me a little bit that there aren't more more issues. But we'll see how it works out. I don't know if I'm for or against it. I just want to know an honest budget, like we talked about with the arena downtown. We want to know what the numbers are going to be and what is it going to cost to use it. Because if it's going to cost me $150 each way, I'm not using it. I'm not using the train for $150 each way. If it's going to cost me $50 each way, yeah, probably do it. Cheaper than flying, and probably won't have to weigh my luggage and all the other things too. So let's get to Mark. Mark's been patiently holding. Mark, welcome to Talkin Money. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, what's happening?
Well, I have a question. My loan is through City Mortgage, but it's actually owned by a loan service company, Aurora Loan Services.
Okay.
And in 2008, I lost my job, and they offered me a loan remodification. And they actually approved it, and I sent my paperwork in, and I made that payment, that modified payment for a year.
Right.
And then after a year, they came back and said that I wasn't qualified. They said they didn't have the paperwork, and I didn't qualify.
Right.
So they told me that I owed them the difference between what my loan remodification payment was and my original payment, which was $12,000.
Right.
I obviously didn't have that. So I started going round and round with them, and eventually I stopped making the payment. But I never stopped fighting with the bank. I actually went to my congressman, and they contacted the bank, and the bank contacted me, and they ended up working something out. But what they did was they basically put me in that position where I owed them the $12,000. Then the money that I didn't pay, they tacked all that on back to the end of the loan.
Right.
Well, now that settlement came out, and City Court was part of that. Is that part of Citibank? And is there another remodification that I might be able to go to?
Yeah, there's a couple of good points in there, Mark. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you back on hold because I'm catching some background noise there. So I'll just leave you on hold so you can hear there. It's easier. So number one, if you recall back when the banks put everybody in these trial modifications, my recollection is, and I could be entirely wrong, my recollection is that most of those banks had a gun put to their head from the government. Basically said, you're going to do this, you're going to do it now, and then we'll figure out who qualifies and who doesn't down the road. So the banks were forced into modifying people's loans that they had really no idea whether they ever intended to keep it that way or not, but they did it just to get the federal government off their back. So that was number one. Then a year goes by, and nobody's really resolved any rules, so they come back to you and they say, well, you don't qualify because, hell, they don't know who qualifies. They don't even know what qualifies. So give us our money back, and nobody has the money back, so they add it to the back of your loan. So that's kind of the challenge and the problem with having the federal government, over doing business they shouldn't be doing. Now you're left with a loan that last week, or 2 weeks ago now, a proposed settlement come out from some of the big banks, and they said, well, look, if you're not a Fannie or you're not a Freddie or you're not an FHA or you're not a VA, then we will consider, some other principal reductions and some other note reductions. And that hasn't been done yet, and you don't probably have to do anything. If they feel you meet their criteria, they're going to send you a letter and contact you. It's probably not going to be this week or next, but it will be in the next month or so. They will contact you, reach out to you, and say, we've identified you as one of these candidates that will fall into this category. If you're not one of those people either, then you come back to the same old question, which is, can you afford to hang with your house and stick with it? Or do you have to look at a short sale and look at some other options? So the answer to his question was, I don't know where you fit in there. My guess is you probably will be contacted by them, and I would hang it out a little bit longer. But keep in mind, there are still some advantages to 2012 to doing a short sale if you're going to go that route in this year. So that might be, the last resort for you to consider before you do that. So, and speaking of government intervention, I got this off another email. So part of what's going on, there's been so many. We got to take a break here in a few minutes, don't we? 35. We got to. There's so many things, so many variables right now that are floating around. That for those of us that are in the industry, it's very difficult to keep track of what the new rule is, how the new rule affects you. HARP 1, HARP 2, Obama plan, you have to be doing this every single day, full-time, all day, in order to keep on top of it. And so for those of you that are on the consumer end of things, the frustration level has got to be sky high of knowing, where do I fit in or can I fit in? Because it's frustrating for us because we're trying to pick our way through it. And the rules are changing all the time. I noted this that came out the other day. There's a lot of rules in terms of that have come out to how we can charge things, how consumers can be affected in terms of costs and locks and all the other things too. And one of them that came out this week, which I thought was very interesting, was in reference to what's called the Volcker rule, Volcker, Volker. And there's some discussion right now that the mortgage industry might not be able to offer somebody an advanced lock on their mortgage rate because we have to go out as an industry and secure that risk. It's called hedging, which is actually what Tom Farmer, who just called in, that's what Tom does for our company. And that might break some rules. So for someone like yourself who's worried about a mortgage market that's moving, you call up and say, okay, I want to lock in 4% today for 30 days while I get my paperwork together. That's common, right? We do that all the time. That actually might be breaking one of the new rules, which would mean you don't get to lock in your rate until the loan is done.
So I'm buying a house 60 days from now. I can afford 4%, but if all of a sudden rates become 5%, I may not be able to buy that house.
Right, which is one of the advantages of locking.
Correct.
So, but one of the rules is saying, hey, wait a minute, guys, there's some expense in there that either you're incurring for the borrower or you're not passing along or you're not passing along to everybody, and that could potentially be a problem. And so that would be a huge finding, an unintended consequence of the rule. But a big problem if all of a sudden you cannot lock until your loan is ready to go to doc. So basically you get about a 7-day lock. And Nick's exactly right. Doesn't mean so much today because, okay, rates today are 4, tomorrow's 4.1, tomorrow, the next day is 3.9. Doesn't matter. But I have seen, and we can name a number of occasions where you woke up in the morning and rate was 4. You went to bed and the rate was 4.5. You woke up the next morning, it was 5. I mean, just, you talk about geopolitical maneuvers and things, and then that would kill off a fairly already struggling market. So we'll talk about that more. We got to take one more quick break. I've got some IMAX movie passes. You want to go see the IMAX movies on me? You can go online if you want to. If you don't win the passes, you want to go online and save 25% off, you can do that. The promo code is Tarbell, Tarbell. Save 25% off. But I will give out, we got 2 winners for the IMAX. The first 2 callers that can correctly spell their name and their address. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Off the text line, hey, Jeff, TS will molest you before you board the high-speed rail. Who's guarding the tracks? So we'll see about that.
And if you're going to IMAX, Jeff, they got that new movie, John Carter, if you've seen that.
No.
Big action-packed movie. And Born to be Wild, Journey, and Tornado Alley are all playing.
Okay, so the first caller is at 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. We'll send out 2 pair of winners to the IMAX at Sacramento, imax.com/Sacramento if you want to check that out. This is Talkin Money. My name is Jeff Tarbell. That's Nick Perjanik, and we'll be right back.